Alrighty, welcome to this first episode of Real Discourse, my new little pet project where I basically will be having this in the name, right? Real Discourse, discussions, conversations, talking about things that I find interesting. Typically those are personal growth, business, blockchain, crypto, economics, people in general, right? Politics sometimes too. Just things that I'm generally interested in, right? I feel like discussions are important. I feel like talking and, communicating with other people is always a good thing, and sharing of ideas more so, right? Because sometimes I'm actually quite introverted and don't even like talking to people, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, sharing of ideas. I love ideas, and that's what this whole series of videos that I'm going to endeavor upon is all about, right? Now, today's talk is actually about Elon Musk and Twitter. Maybe you've seen it. It wasn't what I was originally going to do as my first episode, but like this is timely. This is now, and it's something I've been thinking about for a while. In fact, what initially triggered my thinking about Elon Musk and this whole Twitter thing was back when he bought, when was that, like a week or two ago, he purchased, I think, 9% of Twitter. And I thought, wow, isn't this interesting, right? Isn't this interesting? Now, caveat in regards to my preconceived biases, I don't necessarily like Elon Musk. I'm definitely not a fanboy or a groupie. My sentiment, I guess, would be described as indifferent. He's just a dude that does things that he wants to do, and whatever, I'm cool with that. But, when he bought the 9%, I remember thinking to myself, oh, this is interesting. What's going on here? And I started to see like all the collateral damage as people started freaking out, thinking, geez, Elon Musk is going to take over Twitter. He's doing this because he wants more control, blah, 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 right? Then what we saw in direct response was Twitter offer Elon Musk a position on the board, which I thought, oh, that's interesting. And part of the conditions of accepting that to be on the board of Twitter would be that he's not allowed to purchase more than 14% from memory of Twitter in totality, right? So I thought, oh, wow, that's interesting. And initially I remember reading that Musk accepted that, which I thought was weird, because for me, that's really just about boxing him in so that he can't acquire more of the company. And I thought if he has got that intention to do that, then he definitely doesn't want to sit on the board. And like sitting on the board, well, that doesn't really do much, right? Doesn't really give you any substantial power like people thought that he'd have. He'd be one person on a whole board. So really it was like putting shackles and chains on him at the end of the day. So he rejected that, which I thought was interesting, not entirely unexpected. And then yesterday I woke up to the news that he has actually put forward this offer that's now been accepted for a $46 billion buyout of Twitter, which in AUD I think works out to be roughly in the vicinity of $62 billion. Now, I feel like Twitter didn't really have much of a choice here because, and there was grumblings, and there's going to continue to be grumblings because of, well, a number of reasons which we'll discuss in this episode. But ultimately, you've got Musk that owns 9% of the company already, right? If they didn't accept his offer, in my opinion, he was in a unique position to be able to effectively sell all of his stock, which effectively, and look, Twitter stock prices, if you've looked at it, right, they haven't really been performing. It's kind of progressively just been going down and down. So, if Musk then got the shits and decided to sell his 9% stakeholding, that probably would crash the damn price, and collectively people would lose hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So I feel like they had a responsibility to shareholders at the end of the day. That's like your job in these situations, right? You got a responsibility to your shareholders in a public company. And for them to say no to, I can't recall what the exact number, I think him buying it at $46 billion gave shareholders a premium of about 36 or 38%. And if they rejected that and he pulled out, it would have tanked the share prices and ended up costing them, right? So they were in a bit of a precarious situation. So why is Musk doing this? Let's talk about that for a second. So if you take a look at what he's been communicating online, Musk has been like, you know what? I care about censorship. I care about free speech, and I want to, bring Twitter back to the good old days when it was a town square of ideas that could be shared, right? And I particularly like one quote that Musk has recently said, which is, his opinion of free speech is someone you don't like saying something you don't like and them still being able to say it. Now, I think that really does hit at the core of it, right? And look, you've got the whole, in America, I think you've got what I think it's called the First Amendment, where it's like, you know, you can have free speech and that's all well and good. But then I think you've also got a culture of free speech, which I feel has been decaying for many years now, for various reasons. But like this free speech idea, I think, is really important. Now, I don't necessarily know if I believe that Musk is this altruistic, libertarian kind of person, right? And free speech makes up the main motivations that he's got. I think, you know, at the end of the day, Musk likes to make a profit, and there's definitely that degree there because, you know, if we take a look at Twitter and this evolution, like, you know, Musk, and this is actually important too in regards to what could happen. Like, you know, Musk owns multiple companies, right? He doesn't go in there just to fix one thing. Like, look, he's got the Board company, which is all about, I guess, increasing spatial mobility by building tunnels. You've got SpaceX, you've got Tesla. Like, if this all goes through, and once again, people are right now, we'll talk about responses shortly, but like people are cracking the shits globally, right? Typically people on the left side of the political equation are cracking the shits right now. And it's only not even been dotted and signed for very long. It's not even official, right? Like there are still 11th hour shenanigans that could occur that stop this whole thing from occurring. Like, you know, I'd be shocked, to be completely honest, if there aren't some sort of roadblocks that occur to kind of stifle this from occurring smoothly. But, you know, getting in there, I don't think it would just be free speech that gets changed. I think a lot of things would be improved. And I think if I was Musk and I was in his position, I effectively would look at all the people that are working at Twitter and I'd be like, okay, cool. So out of these people here, who's performing, who's not, who's competent, who's not, who's just a drain creating problems and are just kind of leeching on. And I would honestly, I would most likely do a cull, and I'd be like, who's actually bringing value to this company and actually, you know, bringing the world a good service and a good product, and who's kind of detracting from that vision. And you know, Musk strikes me the kind of person that would do that and then basically go, cool, put a message out to the world and be like, who is the best in the world to fix this problem? Like, what problems does Twitter have? I don't personally use Twitter very much because in its current state, to what is deteriorated to right now, I feel like it's very toxic. Like sometimes I open it up and I look through comment threads and it's toxic, man. It makes me, I can't really stomach it for very long. It makes me feel like a bit uneasy in regards to just the way that it kind of swings sometimes in comment sections. But like, you know, like bots is a big problem, like bots on platforms. So if I was Musk, I'd be like, who can fix this? Boom. Hire the best people in the world, bring them in and fix this problem that, you know, Twitter seems to have been unable to fix up until now, right? So I think it'll be very interesting. I don't think it will just be freedom of speech that is a focal point of what Musk will do. I think he'll like quite literally do a cleanse of the ecosystem and then replace that with highly competent, highly motivated, you know, the creme de la creme of developers, thinkers, you know, geniuses to come in and make this platform absolutely outstanding. That's my overall thought. So, you know, if we take a look at Twitter in regards to how it's evolved, as I said, it's been deteriorating over time, and like what originally was like this whole town square kind of place where you can come and share ideas has kind of evolved into this, look, I'd say almost elitist cesspit, really. Like when I jump on there, you see that, you know, you got people with blue ticks, and blue ticks get prioritized above everything else. Typically the blue ticks are politicians, you know, celebrities, and what's it called? Media folk, right? So people that work in the media establishment. And look, they don't necessarily always have the best ideas. If anything, they don't even really have original ideas, if I'm being completely fair. But like you've got this kind of elitist environment where there is suppression of contrarian ideas. Definition for me of contrarian is that it goes against the generally publicly propagated narrative, right? And whether that be about political issues, social issues, or whatever, right? You've got a generally pushed, narrative of what, you know, politicians and the media establishment, the mainstream media establishment, would like you to believe and accept and wholeheartedly bring into your life. And then you've got people that are like, hang on, I disagree with that. I don't think that's the best way this should occur. Right? And what we've seen over the last, you know, to 10 years is this decay and this kind of almost centralization of thought with Twitter. This is my thoughts, right? I feel like there's been a centralization of thought where over time you've had a certain, I guess, mode of thinking creep into the ether, right? Into the stream of consciousness. And that's the dominant ideology that now is in Twitter. And anything that is contrary to that, and we'll discuss what it is in 2 seconds, it gets squeezed out, right? It gets squeezed out, it gets suppressed. And you don't have to go far to find people that are complaining about being shadow banned. You know, there's shadow banning, there's people that are getting unfollowed from accounts without actually unfollowing accounts. You've got complete blocking of people from the platform, i.e. Donald Trump, love him or hate him, doesn't really matter. I don't care either way, I'm indifferent. But like, what I am not indifferent about is the silencing of ideas when ideas are what stimulate conversation. Conversations lead to positive outcomes when you find solutions, right? So when you stop allowing debate and conversations to occur just because someone's feelings get hurt or someone gets offended or someone gets outraged, outrage does not equal righteousness or correctness either, by the way. I feel like that's a real slippery slope and it's not a good thing for us as humanity and us as people, right? So this is kind of this evolution that Twitter and a lot of the social platforms have kind of taken to the point where, and you know, politically, if I look at myself, right, I've only become political relatively recently in regards to my thinking. But like, if I was to identify myself politically, typically I'd be what would be called a traditional progressive libertarian, right? They were my values. My values have not really changed at all. And I'm going to do a full video on this in an actual episode, you know, which is the shifting goalposts of left versus right, because I've never really considered myself a conservative person, but because the goalpost has shifted, I've almost found myself becoming quote unquote a conservative person because just this shifting landscape, right? Which is quite interesting. It's fascinating. But if you take a look at what is making up the thought stream, right? What's the stream of consciousness? What's the common diet? What's the what's in the ether, right? What's the acceptive narrative globally right now? It's definitely that which is more left-leaning, right? If you look at the left side versus the right side, and maybe my video is mirrored, so I can't even tell which side was the right side then, but that is what is the dominant train of thought. And the problem that I'm seeing, and this is obviously why people are excited about Musk taking over this company, is that if we can start to correct the imbalance where anybody who disagrees with left accepted narratives, if we can create that, if we can fix that censorship issue where you get censored if you say bad things like I'm going to kill you because of this, or you know, just actual hate speech where people are being really, really mean to other people and, you know, character calls, stuff like that, you know, discriminating against someone based on how they look or where they're from. Like, to me, that's arsehole shit, and that needs to be just stamped out of our society. Like, if you're judging another person based on how they look or where they're from, then you're an arsehole. Let's just be completely honest, right? And that's like a level of emotional immaturity that is for kindergarten, and you need to grow up. But like, you know, if someone says something because they, you know, if you get offended because someone disagrees or has a different point of view from you, that's kindergarten shit as well. And that's no reason that they should be censored. It's no reason that they should be banned from platforms. And these are some of the problems that I see with Twitter and why I really can't stand it. It's like, do I want to go share my opinion, which is most likely going to offend somebody? And by the way, I think Jordan Peterson once said this, right? If you risk thinking, then you risk offending somebody else, because it's all about numbers, right? If you've got a room of 2 people, maybe you won't offend that person. 5 people, you might be right. But if you stretch it out far enough and you get enough people that hear your ideas, at some point you're going to come across someone that disagrees with what you think and takes offense to your ideas. It's a probability, right? It's just a matter of time. It's like a gambler going to a casino. You may win 5 times in a row, but believe me, you are just counting down the time until you lose everything, which is why, you know, gambling's a horrible addiction. Anytime that I've worked with gamblers in my life with coaching, it's always, Yeah, man, it's always a tricky thing because they're addicted to it and it's such a destructive thing. But yeah, it's just a matter of time before you offend someone. So, if you make offense and outrage and being morally superior to people the benchmark based on how things should be censored, then that's a big problem. So let's talk about the public responses to what's been going on, because it's been entirely predictable. It is not even signed and done yet. It is not official. It's not complete. Like, as I said, there can still be 11th hour shenanigans that block this sale from occurring. But already you've got the celebrities and the woke, right? Quote unquote woke. So awake that you're freaking asleep. But you've got these woke folk that are like, that's it. I'm canceling my Twitter account. I'm deactivating my Twitter account. Hey, people in America, I'm moving to Canada. And it's funny because it brings back memories of what happened with Donald Trump back in 2016, right? All these people like, if Donald Trump gets into office, then I'm going to move to Canada. No one did. Let's be real. Come on. You never did. Stop saying it. It's theatrical. You're being an attention mongering twat, if you're being completely honest. But this is what you're seeing again. You've got the bizarre stuff coming out from what I would describe as radical leftists. The ones that are absolutely, completely obsessed with gender, that are obsessed with race, that are obsessed with identity, that are obsessed with sexuality, they're obsessed with grievances, right? Like that's a real large part. They're a small minority, but they're a loud minority. And they don't really express the sentiment and will of the majority, which is, it's hard to see that when they're so vocal and when they are typically put up on, these perches by media and politicians. It's deceptive in my opinion. But anyway, I digress from that for a second. But you've got these woke folk that are cracking the shits. You've got this guy, right? His name's Sean King. Maybe you've seen him, maybe you've not. If not, Google him and you'll discover that he's a white dude that pretends to be black, and he's basically a rape baiter. He stirs the racial pot. I really can't stand him, to be honest. He was very noisy during the whole 2020 BLM stuff. And I found it really bizarre that he calls out people about racism and, attacks whiteness. That's another thing too, by the way. And this is what's really interesting, right? And I'm ranting here. This is obviously not scripted, but like, you might be thinking to yourself, geez, where's all this insanity coming from? Where is this obsession with identity and, who you are and what you do or where you're from? Where's all this coming from? And where it comes from, and I'm doing a full episode on this, by the way, which is about ideas. It comes from ideas, and these ideas originate from academia, right? So from universities. And typically what happens is kids go to universities, they get indoctrinated by professors, right, and lecturers. They get incentivized or they get encouraged to go and join social justice causes. And caveat, right? Let me make a distinction. I've got no problem with social justice causes. Social justice has its time and place, but I think there's a difference between an authentic social justice cause and a weaponized social justice cause. There's a big difference, right? And there's definitely these social justice activities that have been weaponized for specific political agendas and political gains. Let's not be silly and let's not try to be deceiving with that. But anyway, they go to these universities that have these ideas, which I would say are rather radical and not necessarily healthy. I'm from a coaching background. Our whole thing with coaching, and it's always been like this, is helping empower people, right? So helping them to get empowered, to stop being victims, to take ownership in their life, extreme ownership, so they can dominate and beat any obstacle that gets in their way. And, what grinds my gears is that I see that there's this trending energy, or I'm getting a little bit hippie right there with that, but like there's this trending line of thought, right, or belief that is completely contrary to what I've been doing for about 10 years, which is helping to empower people, right? Nobody can control you. Nobody can have it over you. You can only give up your personal power, right? You need to, stop being a victim and start being a victor. And the way you do that is you take ownership, you've got accountability, and you take responsibility and you make it happen. There's this trend coming out that is not that, it's the opposite, and it's creating a mentality, in my opinion, what I've observed in people that I see online and also people that I've met in real life of the opposite, right? Which is blame, excuses, and denial, which typically we call below the line behavior. And it's not healthy, in my opinion. So it starts in academia, it gets propagated out through social justice causes that have been weaponized for political gain. You get these people that leave the universities that find themselves in positions that are influential positions. So maybe they find themselves as politicians, maybe they get into the media establishment as producers or actors or news reporters, right? Maybe they become celebrities themselves, you know, the woke folk that are in Hollywood, and it gets pushed out, right? So then also talk about Hollywood, gets pushed out through movies, through Netflix. You may be seeing some of the woke shit that they've done lately, which has caused their stocks to fall. Like, this is how it makes its way out into the mainstream narrative. Then you find it making its way through schools, right? And to be honest, like, a lot of these woke folk are putting these ideas and they're trying to get people as young as possible, because the way that you make a change, right? Like, if you've got this agenda to change, if you okay, let's put the hat on. Why would you do this? So if you fully believe that, you know, whiteness is bad, that masculinity is bad, that capitalism is bad, that, you know, heteronormativity is bad, if you think all this stuff is the root of all decay and the root of all evil, you're going to do everything you can to change that. How do you change that? How do you change a nation? How do you change the world? You get people while they're young, which is why there's a push to bring this stuff into, I guess, you know, into, like, you know, primary school, kindergarten, as young as you can, because if you can start to shift this stuff, children's books, children's shows, children's movies, if you can get them there, then you've done a big part of the job, right? A big part of the job. But anyway, I digress from that. I'll talk about that in more detail in another episode. But, you know, this is what we're seeing from public responses. You've got these people that believe this stuff, the Sean Kings of the world, who, as I said, is a race baiter. He stirs the racial pot. He comes out and says Elon Musk buying Twitter is what would it say? It says something along the lines of Elon Musk buying Twitter is an example of white power, white supremacy, right? I've seen this mentioned in a number of different iterations on a number of different sources, right? On Twitter, I'm sure you can jump in and see, like, type in Elon Musk. I'm sure you can find threads after threads of people bitching about this, right? They're attributing this to, like, white power. They're attributing this to the patriarchy. He's a man. He's white. He's a capitalist. All these things that aren't particularly relevant to the conversation at all, right? And it's entirely predictable, and it's also premature, because we don't even know if it's going to go through. As I said, there could be 11th hour shenanigans from people that are trying to stop this. And there's lots and lots and lots, because, you know, ultimately the people that work at Twitter, primarily, like a lot of the people in the tech scene, in a lot of these scenes, are quite progressive. That's just, you know, how their ideologies are, for whatever reason that might be. You know, if we look more high level than that, you see governments like the EU and UK, they've come out and they're like, you know, Elon Musk better not do anything too radical. He better make sure he sticks to our guidelines on censorship and anti-discrimination and moderation, which is completely fine, because I don't think that's a bad thing. What I do think is a bad thing is having this criteria of what should be moderated based on partisan politics. I think that's a problem. I think both sides of the spectrum need to be heard, and I think that to censor things wholeheartedly based on your political beliefs is just not appropriate. I don't think it's healthy. I think it creates like an ab reaction of sorts, where extremes create extremes. And you know, you've seen this, right? Back in the 2020, talking about America again, but it was quite big, and I really took a mental note of it. In 2020, you had the presidential election between Joe Biden, who was, you know, proved to be exactly as I thought he'd be, as useful as a flat tire, and he was obviously competing with Donald Trump, right? And at the time, you had this Hunter Biden bloody, I don't know why I did air quotes then, it just happened. But like, yeah, this Hunter Biden laptop from hell that came out, right? That showed all this collusion with Ukraine, all these funds coming back, using daddy's name. There was drugs, there was prostitutes, there was like all this stuff, right? And what happened, right? So the a newspaper in New York ran it, and they posted on Twitter, censored. I mean, crazy censored. The level of censorship that was happening in regards to this Hunter Biden laptop was insane. I remember thinking to myself, holy shit, like it got blocked everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, like all the platforms, YouTube, anywhere talking about it. It was block. Fact checkers came out, right? Fact checkers, what is a fact checker? A fact checker is someone that checks your idea versus what they think is true or believe, and declares it as being true or untrue based on their belief, right? And typically they're young kids that don't have any real real-world experience, and here we are. But anyway, I digress from that. But it literally came out, got fully censored. Then, of course, we had the standard game, right, which is where they blame it on the Russians. So they came out and they're like, this is Russian disinformation. That laptop was planted there by Russians. Yeah, well, fast forward to 2022, the mainstream establishment media is right now saying, yes, that actually was Hunter Biden's laptop. Once again, jump on Google if you don't believe me. You'll see that they've accepted that, yes, that was his laptop. Even though they're still relatively light on its coverage, they are accepting it now. They never went back and said, oh, we're sorry that we blocked that back in 2020 when, if people saw that, and I read some reports that actually showed that there were people in 2020 who, if they'd known about the Hunter Biden laptop, would not have voted for Joe Biden. They either, would have voted for an independent, or maybe they would have voted for Donald Trump. Point in case is that that's the kind of shenanigans that quite literally, due to incorrect censorship based on political agendas, sways an election, which is disenfranchising people that would have voted in a certain way if they were fully informed, which is the actual problem, right? This is the whole issue. Today they accept this was Hunter Biden's laptop. It was what he was doing. This is accurate. We were wrong. Well, they didn't say we were wrong. They just pretended it never happened. But this is what's going on, right? So I think to conclude this, right? I think it is a positive thing. I think even if Elon Musk doesn't give a damn, as he portrays about freedom of speech, I think that he'll start to balance the scales of censorship in an appropriate way so that, the people that left Twitter, that left these legacy platforms in hordes will start to come back, because there were people that have got, followings of millions and millions that left Twitter, right? Because they were sick and tired of getting censored. So what you'll see is these people start to rush back. You might lose a handful of, outraged radical leftists as it happens, but the amount of people that come back because they've now got freedom of speech again will outweigh the amount of people that actually leave because they're upset that now their points of views can be counted, right? And not deleted or blocked or shadow banned. I think that's an important thing. And I think economically, there's a financial incentive for balancing those scales of censorship. And I think Elon Musk is smart enough to go, oh yeah, if I fix this could be quite profitable for me, and this could make everything fantastic, and I'll make money whilst making a good product. And once again, as I said, I don't think this is just going to be a one problem fix that he'll do. I think that he'll bring in a lot more people, experts from all around the world, to fix the bot problem, to fix all these problems, create new features that make Twitter completely revamped, reimagined, and an amazing platform to use. In fact, I might even start using it if I don't have to worry about, my opinion getting me banned or censored. So look, anyway, guys, this is my first episode. Went way longer than I anticipated that it would do. I'm going to jump off of here. Next one that I'm going to go through, I'm sure will be a delightful thing. But that's my thoughts on Twitter. Let's see how it unfolds. As I said, it's not over yet. We don't know. It is not the 12th hour. It could still completely blow up and not go ahead. But believe me, it's worth paying attention to. And if we do get those balancing of scales when it comes to censorship, I think that's healthy. And I think it should be that way on all platforms, to be completely honest. I don't think that you should, I don't think that what is right and what is wrong should be something that is partisan, that is, dependent on what side of the political spectrum that you exist on. I don't think that's right. But anyway, that's my thoughts. Take care. I'll chat to you soon. Bye.